The following is a Productions original series.
Hello and welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I'm Doug Vincent, joined by Addie Rich. Our podcast is dedicated to amplifying the voices of the disability community. I am a polio survivor, and Addie
has cerebral palsy.
Yes. So we're back again this week, and how was your week? What were you doing in the off time?
It was good. I did a lot of training last week. Last week was for we talk about anxiety and social anxiety. For as bubbly as I am, and everybody makes fun of me because they're like, you love to talk. And I'm like, no, I actually don't. Like, especially when it's tied to work, it's anxiety inducing, right?
Oh,
and so I had to give, basically as part of my ERG group that I'm part of, I hosted a caregiver coffee chat. And it was a lot about caring for the caregiver. And there were like 30 people that showed up, which was really good. It was on
great.
Zoom. Yeah, it was on Zoom. But I talked for about 15 minutes and like gave different strategies, and it was fun, but I was terrified for like the whole week before until Wednesday. So on Wednesday, it was like a big adrenaline dump. And then on Thursday, I had to do a training for my team members about using AI and technology in the workplace. So it was a double dose of having to act like I knew what I was doing. So, come Thursday night, I slept really well because I
yes.
slept the rest of the week.
Just need to keep doing it more, then the adrenaline dump gets less.
Shake that jitters off.
Yeah.
I know. I was telling my team, I was like, it's funny because being a teacher, like nobody talks about as a teacher, you can be anxious about your lessons as well. And I'm like, I used to be felt like an ice dump, dunking myself in every morning to do my lessons. For the first time I taught it, you teach 6 periods. So on the 6th period, I don't give a crap. I can do it in my sleep. But on the first one, you're nervous or whatever and making sure. And honestly, too, the principal pops in and that's very nerve-wracking, or people from the superintendent's office or whatever. So, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. You're kind of out of practice a little bit.
Yeah. I survived. How about you?
A good week. I had a good week. It was hot and cold here and all those things, and I had a good time at the pantry, which we do every week. But this week we did haircuts for the fathers for Father's Day.
Cool.
And a buddy of mine and his wife, their daughter, I guess, had completed beauty school or whatever. But and they reached out to her because I asked them, could she come and do some haircuts that day? And she didn't stay in that field. She got another job doing something else. But I thought she maybe could come and volunteer her time. But come to find out that she mostly did women's, like coloring and things like that.
Oh.
Didn't really do like barber work. So they were so gracious, they paid a gal's salary to come out.
Oh, how cool.
So she wouldn't miss work. And it's their donation to have her donate her time to do the haircuts.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was very nice. And, for them, and he's a veteran, was a military dog handler going back to Vietnam, and they very much appreciated what we were doing there for the veterans, which, I knew he would, but just for somebody to actually see it, is very nice. So had a good time doing that. And then we're going to do it for the kids again just before they go back to school, so they can get haircuts and all that.
Fun.
Yeah, so that'll be a good time. And then Friday night, I went to a gentleman that I've met, through all the different adaptive sports and things, a guy named Sebastian, and he is very passionate about camping and getting out into the outdoors. So he put together a whole presentation, and he gave it at REI. I don't know. I can't remember. You know what REI is with the camping equipment and all that? Yeah.
I love REI.
Yes. Oh, I know. It's tough going in there. I just want to buy everything. But
exactly.
So it was all about adaptive camping. So it's kind of gotten me re-energized to do that because, I kind of thought the camping days were behind me. But, there was a lot of ideas that he shared that kind of like, I think I could do this again. And one of the things is I'm thinking I got to get in a tent because, that's what I want to do. I don't want to, a motorhome would be nice, but it's not the camping that I really enjoy and used to take my daughter out on. But it's, I'm thinking of getting in a tent and getting on the ground. How am I going to get back up into my wheelchair and all that stuff? hello, a cot. Great. That's a great idea. Genius.
Yeah.
So, and just a bunch of other things. So, yeah, start working on that. And it kind of led me to, because I have a hand cycle that I haven't really ridden in a while. And some of that is my shoulders, obviously gone. So I was thinking about getting it upgraded to electric. So in those times, hills and things like that, I could have a little assistance. But then he started showing the different kinds of devices that can go on off-road trails and things like that. And there's, of course, the things that are $15,000, $20,000, which is, out of price for most people. But there's a device that you just put on your manual wheelchair and it, you can go on those off-roads. And I've already kind of been thinking this way because a couple of years ago, I got knobby tires to put on my wheelchair for times when I went into that kind of a situation. And so I just need to get those adjusted right with the right axles, and so I can interchange them between my daytime tires and those tires.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's all kind of coming together. I'll keep you posted on that. We're going to have him on to talk about that.
I was going to say, he should be on, and we should record it, because that would be something I would love to give to my ERG. One of the things I started doing and making is accessible summer camps, because the larger parent company owns smaller entities all over the U.S., so I started collecting, basically making a directory of summer camps, because it's summer here. And so that would be
adaptable and not, or right? Yeah.
Yes. So like things that are like, do inclusive camping, or like different camps that, specialize in autistic children, because oftentimes you don't have a lot of respite from it. But there are day camps and things that the counselors are well versed in. It's really cool.
Wow. Welcome to the brainstorming meeting for Walk and Roll Live, because I wanted to do that on our resource page, have a category for all of that kind of stuff. So I've got some. I'll share them with you if you can share yours. Perfect. With me. Yeah, that would be awesome. So it's starting to look forward to doing that. So that'll be fun. Get back out. I know my daughter is doing a lot of that. Like I say, I kind of introduced that to her when she was young, and now she's spending it with her family. And I thought, well, that'd be nice to go and they do a lot of overnighters, like on a Friday night, they'll go down to one of the state beaches for the night. So I'd love to go along. All righty. Very good. And we got letters. I started looking back, and we get letters quite often, and I just haven't really shared a whole lot.
Don't just forget. He reads them and then
I
goes
keep
on
them to myself.
It's okay.
So yes, I compiled a few here. Won't take too long, but we'll share them with you.
We get letters. Oh, so many letters, and it's time to share them with you.
There we go. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. I think what you guys are doing is so great and beneficial to so many people. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to collaborating with you guys more in the future. Have a lovely rest of your week, and I look forward to listening to many more episodes and podcast episodes from Walk and Roll Live. Cheers, Ellie, the dance instructor, yes. And then thank you for this nice shout out to the Over the Line game we attended. It was super nice meeting you and listening to your podcast. I have some catching up to do. I will definitely keep in touch and use some of the resources you share. That's Oscar that I met at the Over the Line thing at Casa Colina. I just want to say I really admire you and your podcast. The way you framed this message was extra lovely. I have had 3 surgeries in the last 6 months and have been on a walker, and now I progressed to a cane. I only have a tiny sliver of what it is like to struggle physically through this experience, and so I have more empathy and respect than ever for those who have had a lifelong battle. Special wishes to you and today and every day. Michelle, that's a friend of mine, and I like the way she put that, because so many times we were just talking about this at one of the events that I was at, when people say, I broke my ankle a couple of months ago. I know how you feel.
We talked about that too.
So don't do that.
don't do that. But acknowledging that, like, our storytelling helps you with your empathy.
Yeah, that's
go
good.
right ahead.
I like that. Exactly. I've had people say my brother had something, and that make me.
I know. We talk about that in an episode upcoming too. Like, they play the 6 degrees of separation. Although I do admire their want to connect, but I also it's a fail. It's okay.
It is a fail. So, and then the last but not least, I was telling you the last time, I think we read letters, that there's a gentleman that I know that he just, every week, he's just, oh, wow, totally awesome. Gunny.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks
Nice.
for writing, Gunny. We appreciate it. All right. Today, we speak with Joyce Reynolds from the ADRC, and that is Aging and Disability
Resource Center.
Resource Center. Thank you very much.
It takes two. It takes two, baby. We'll get through it.
Yeah, we'll be talking about what she does with the one here, but there are many ADRCs across the country. So if you're looking for aging and disability services, look it up around your community and you should be able to find one. All right, so we'll do that here in just a moment after we hear from our good buddies over at YAR Professional Training.
At UGYAR Professional Training, we know that your greatest asset is your team. Investing in their development, knowledge, and happiness is essential for your business's success and growth. To achieve new heights, it's important to hire intelligent, talented individuals and empower them to excel in their areas of strength and passion. UGYAR is committed to transforming your employees into happier, more productive, and fulfilled individuals. When your team thrives, your business prospers. Wise leaders understand that providing team members with opportunities to shine in their strengths unlocks untapped potential. Elevate your team with UGYAR Professional Training and witness the growth of your business.
From the UGYAR Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories.
We rise with more light, no fear in our eyes. Every step we take, soaring up to the skies. Breaking all the barriers, changing up the game. Living life unstoppable, known by our name. With strength inside our hearts, independence we chase. Through every storm and trial, we find our own space. A world where all can flourish, no limits in sight. Our unity's our power, we shine in the night. Live and thrive, let's blaze a trail. Worldwide, stand tall with pride. No need to ever hide. In every town and city, our voices will be strong. Together we can make it, we belong.
And here we are, back to the exciting part of the show. You know, Addie and I like to kind of catch everybody up on what we've been doing the last week, but this is the meat of the show. So Thank you for joining us. And today we have Joyce Reynolds from ADRC of San Bernardino County, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about her because she is a person with a disability as well. We always start out our show telling our audience what our disabilities are, Addie and I, just to give the whole conversation a context. So we invite our guests to share whatever their disability is, if they have one, or if they want to share, whatever. So Joyce, can you share with us?
My name is Joyce Reynolds, and I am an ADRC specialist. I've worked with 211 for many, many years. I started out as a suicide crisis counselor, but I was an independent contractor since 2000. Right after I got my master's degree, I started doing that. And I'm going to say I started with 2011, around that time, but they don't really count that because I was an independent contractor.
Yeah.
But I kept doing it and I loved doing it. So I went on to be with a position came up for ADRC. So I decided, let me try something different. You know, I was really immune to hearing everything. Right. I mean, I talked to people that were molesters. I talked to people that were, I talked to them all. Yeah. But when the baby started calling in, you guys, that was the first time I found myself getting emotional, crying. Yeah, I mean, and I thought I was immune to everything. Right. But I would get like 10 and 11-year-olds calling in, and I would ask them, "How did you get our number, sweetheart?" And they would say to me, "Well, at school there was a big sign that said if you're feeling a certain way, call this number." Yeah. And I reflect back when I was 10 and 11, I was playing with dolls. Not even thinking about all of that. Right. So that's when I said, this is just getting a bit much for me. And again, this position came up and I thought, oh, this is going to be refreshing because with ADRC, you work with seniors and dependent adults.
Yeah.
And it kind of hit me also because I have never, this is still a, not everybody can do this type of work because you're dealing with crisis after crisis after crisis. I mean,
Right.
today I had the policeman called me, San Bernardino PD, two women fighting each other, two sisters. You know what I'm saying? And he wanted me to hurry up and help get housing for one of the sisters, that type of thing. So it's still, you know,
Yeah, on
still,
top of they trying to meet their needs, they need it now.
Yeah,
Right?
now.
they need it.
Right.
Well, they need it yesterday before the
Yesterday,
fight
yeah.
broke out. But now that the cops are involved, they
Yeah.
definitely need it. Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
I'm curious, Joyce. I'm backing you up in your story just a little bit because I'm curious as to what is your master's in? Like, what brought you to this? What brought you to a helping profession in which some people, and not to say people don't care about people, but it takes a certain soul to care about others in a way that you would even like.
Yeah,
be
you're
an-
all in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even plan on this question because here I go.
Yeah.
Growing up, you know, I got married, as we all do. So I was married. I was in an abusive situation, but they called my ex-husband OJ. They did. Really charming man. You know what I'm saying? You know, articulate, good looking, and all of that. So it's like, and he was abusive, and no one really believed him. You know what I mean? Because he was so convincing and so forth.
Believed you. Yeah.
Believed
that
you,
was
right?
the scenario for you.
Yeah. So I had parents and I had family, and I was very, really blessed growing up. So my family helped me out of the situation. And I said to myself, oh my God, look at women that stay in this situation because they have nobody and they know where to go.
Yeah.
So my first thought was my degree, I'm going to open up a home for abused women and children. I got this. I've always been in wanting to help people.
You're a
You know,
helper.
as
Yeah.
a little girl, my mother, I'll never forget it. My mother called me Mother Teresa one time because, I mean, I didn't know I was like this, but my sister and I thought we were rich growing up, but we weren't, but we thought we were because
Yeah.
we had a maid when we lived in Panama, you know. And then when we lived in Rialto, we were the only people on the street that had a freezer in our, in the garage, freezer full of food.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Both my parents were veterans. And as a little girl, about 8 years old, I'd be skipping up and down the street, you know, look at our freezer to the kids.
Yeah.
And they would be like, wow, we don't have this. So I'd be like, here, you know, passing out, because they would shop at, Doug is probably familiar with March Air Force Base.
Yes. Yep.
They would shop it there and they get all kinds of food, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, here, well, take this, take that, you know. And I remember my mom coming out there and saying, I thought I had thawing out food. This is how it all began, thawing out food for Sunday's dinner. I thought I had some steaks here. And I said, you did, Mommy, but I gave them to the Johnsons. And she said, why did you do that, Joyce Marie? I said, because they had no food. They said they were hungry. So she said to me, well, the next time somebody tells you that they're hungry, you let me take care of it. So I watched my mother work, you guys. I did. And that's why I started a nonprofit called Mabel's Angels. My mother's name is Mabel.
Okay.
She's no longer with us. But she used to like navigate to help people like you would not believe, you know? And that's how I always had a heart for giving.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
amazing.
if I couldn't do it, I'd volunteer somebody to do it.
Right. You voluntold them. You voluntold somebody.
I
Yeah.
volunteer. There you go. So that's, you know, I don't know. I just always felt good helping. And that's something that will always be here. My credit cards want to divorce me because I put so many homeless people in motels, you know, because people that fall through the cracks are the people that I want to help.
Yeah.
They'll call 211. 211 will give them to me. I give them to APS. I try to get a social worker involved. I do everything I'm supposed to do. And then they'll call me back crying on the phone, Joyce, you know, and then here I go. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I started my nonprofit for people who fall through the cracks. We did a story called Home for the Holidays, where we helped this 77-year-old man who had no family. Well, he had a cousin in Wisconsin. We helped him get back home. You know what I'm saying?
Good.
His cousin was always calling us because his name was Bob Pippin. He couldn't hear. And APS didn't help him. We were always doing welfare checks. So we went over there one day. I did on my off time. And I met Bob. He must have weighed 90 pounds. You know, poor thing. He couldn't hear. So we helped him get home. And I just found out yesterday he passed away. But his cousin said to me, "Thank you for giving me 6 months of my cousin,"
Yeah.
because she was older than him and she couldn't have made it down here, you know.
So
we
he did
just
have somebody that cared about him.
one cousin that he
Yeah,
knew about.
yeah.
Her name was Barbara. Yeah.
But it's so you're
Okay.
a human connector. You've been a human connector since
Yeah.
you're a kid. But
Yeah.
now the ADRC is the way that you officially
And,
connect
and,
people.
and
So-
right here, let's just for people that don't know, have never heard of ADRC,
That's what I was gonna
exactly,
say.
what that means, what that is.
ADRC is it's like a Rolling Star. Okay. We're core partners with Rolling Star.
Right.
So we go hand in hand. We are basically supposed to just connect you to resources out there. And connect you, get you hooked up, advocate for you if you need that.
Mhm.
But I took it a step further. Not that I'm doting on myself, but I did. You know what I'm saying?
It's in your
And
nature.
doing a little bit more than that. So, I've got this shared housing thing going on where I set up this, I call it 3 phases, right? People call it, they're homeless. And people have been hearing about what I'm doing. So they'll call me and they'll say, "Joyce, I have a room for rent. Do you have any seniors?" And I have a plethora of seniors, so that not every ADRC does what we do. But being a crisis counselor, and my supervisor would keep telling me, "Joyce, you're not a crisis counselor anymore. Just give them the number," right? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, and sorry, but I've been on the phone with you a few times chatting. She's on the board with me at Rolling Start. Full disclosure here, but
Yeah, I was like, okay.
so I
now
call
we-
her about different things, and she's got to take a call, and I'll be listening to her. And yeah, she's not just handing off numbers, that's for sure. And I'll dote on you a little bit here, but just your attitude and your tone and your voice. I've never.
I'm like, her voice is great.
And as frustrated as you would think this would be after taking calls like this all day long, every day for how long now? Years and years, right?
7 years.
Yes, but you keep this tone that is just helpful, but assertive. She's not a wimp, but she's giving them advice and reiterating it if she has
You
to.
can
And-
lovingly steer people.
Yes,
and
that's absolutely
I
it.
feel that energy already. It's the loving steer of like, hey, I'll give you the resource. You're in charge of, you know what I mean? Like, you got to run the race, but I will walk alongside you and keep
Yeah.
clapping.
Yeah.
And that's who it feels like, Joyce, you are. Like, you do your official job, and then you do your unofficial universe job.
And I love it.
You
I
know,
love
and
it.
being
My
with
friends
Rolling
think
Start
I'm-
for years, that's one of the things that I've, it's been obvious is probably the two top things are employment and housing. And it's just so difficult to find housing, how it is.
It's frightening.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. We have people out there, you guys, on oxygen.
Yeah.
In their 70s and 80s, homeless.
Yeah.
It's like, something's not right with our system. It's like I want to write letters to people. Maybe Doug, you could tell me who to write letters to.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to listen. We got to do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are, this is a complicated subject, obviously, but, there are people that have mental health issues and they're not going to get off the street until you clear that up, but that's even difficult to get it if you want it, or, people when they're in the depths of addiction, that's not a priority for them, to try to get mental health. But those people definitely that are on the street, at 70 and with oxygen probably are there because, they just didn't have all the resources as they were going through life, let alone have enough for the end where they could just, live on a pension or what they saved. Yeah, they maybe didn't have enough to save. So now they're on the street. But yes, we
That's
should
it.
be able to help
They
them.
didn't prepare.
They didn't
You're
prepare.
right, Doug.
Yeah.
Or they
They didn't
couldn't prepare.
Or
There's a
couldn't
difference
prepare.
between they didn't and they couldn't, because
Yeah.
sometimes if you look at the economics to just live
Yeah.
now and
Yeah.
like, how do you create the savings for 20 years from now when you can't pay all the bills right now?
Yeah.
So that's why there are things like ADRC and different things. So
That's a good point, Addie.
But whether you couldn't or didn't, really for those people,
Irrelevant.
I really have a heart for them, that there should be something that can help them.
I've literally started 2 GoFundMe pages. I have one going now. I have one that I started last year, because people, I reach out for monetary assistance. The one I started last year, we had this gentleman in Victorville. His mother passed away. He's in a 3-bedroom home, and he's behind, on his mortgage. It isn't his name. So
did
what
she
about
leave him the home?
she left him the home?
Yeah. So even though
That's a
she
good thing.
left him a home, he's still struggling, right?
So
Yeah.
I try to get people, I reached out to our partners. I'm not going to say the partners I reached out to, but I reached out to people, for help, because here was the plan. We get these rooms cleaned up. Then our client, Mark is his name. I can say that because he signed the release and all that. He can rent out the rooms. He can supplement his income. He's going to be fine.
Oh, good.
But I couldn't get the money to do that. So I did a GoFundMe for him.
Mhm.
It's the creativity, right? Like
Yeah.
the world we live in right now requires creativity. But for people that are listening and need to, like, maybe they're in that situation or very tedious, it's tediously close for them. Like, can you explain the process of what happens? So they call, they find this number, however it finds them, 211, and then what? You pick up the
211 is the entry. Now, 211, they know to give them resources and so forth because, we have a plethora of resources in our database. However, they'll get that one senior. I mean, today I had 3 or 4 calls from 211 inboxes. Joyce, can you help this person? That type of thing. So they'll give the call to us. Usually it's like a 7, 8, 9, 10 day before I can get back with them because it's just that many calls.
Yeah.
I go to town, I assess them, I find out where they're at and so forth. Usually I'll put them through to Adult Protective Services, who also takes 10 days. Sometimes they'll call me right back saying that they didn't get the help they need, and that's how I start adding what I add. But
That's how the Joyce comes. The Joyce special shows up because if you're not going to not eat for 10 days, if that's what it, if
we've
that's what
taken food to people, my little nonprofit. And I told the CEO, I said, I just want you to know, because someone said, are you sure that's not a conflict of interest to have Mabel's Angels and then work for, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just like when I joined the board, I love Lisa. When I joined the board, that kind of came up too. But they say, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because like I explained to Chris, our person at the top, I said, the calls, the stories and everything, it makes us look good, right? Because I'm still a part of you guys. And he was like, that's fine. Just keep doing what you're doing, because
Humanity.
Yeah.
You losing humanity for politics is a horrible tragedy, but is often forced.
Absolutely.
So, sometimes you just got to say, well, screw it. We'll see what happens.
And it's a perfect partnership between 2 and 11 and Rolling Start, because that's what Rolling Start is really all about as well, is we have people who know where all the resources are, at least a significant amount of them, and they're always finding new ones, people. And I know in my travels, if I find something new, I'll let Rolling Start know, this is available out there. And either they'll say, I knew about that, or they didn't, and they'll add it to their library of those resources. So, and there's new ones coming on all the time, new organizations. And so somebody calls on 211. Now, 211, you're not answering those calls. There's somebody else, and then there's a system where it funnels it to you depending on the need assessment.
I love 211, but I wouldn't last 5 seconds with them,
Answer their call.
No, because I tell you what, no, seriously, because they calls back to back to back, right?
Yeah, right.
But by the time I say hello, how are you doing, and all that, there goes that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they don't at ADRC. We don't have a time frame. You know what I'm saying? We can do our own thing. For me, is I never like to have a client hang up feeling the same way when they called in.
Yeah.
Right.
If they hang up and they're still crying incessantly, that means I didn't do my job.
I was going to ask. So when you get that call, and they would initially call it 211, now it's 8, 9, 10 days later. Big part of what you do is probably manage expectations. They're frantic by this time, I imagine.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The follow-ups are very important, you guys, because, and sometimes it's hard, you know what I'm saying? When you're talking to so many people. But the very first time I did a follow-up, I'll never forget it. The client was literally waiting, and she started crying, and she said, "You didn't forget me." I mean, she just started crying. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, oh my God, this poor lady.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these seniors, they've outlived their family. They don't have anybody. And they wait for that call from us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So
yeah.
what are some of the biggest issues? I mean, we talked about housing and employment at that age. Is that a big issue?
It is a big issue
Yeah.
because a lot of clients call in saying that, discrimination.
Okay.
I get people that are in their 70s, 75, wanting to go back to work because it's hard to make it out there.
Right.
Sometimes you got 2-3 families and living under one roof just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's a good question. There should be more jobs for seniors.
And I know a lot of employers, because I just had a buddy go through this, and luckily he was right on the verge of retirement age. And, he was out there looking, and he really started to get the feeling, nobody said it, implicitly, but he started to get the feeling they're not going to hire me because, am I going to be around there 6 months to a year and then retire? Why would they bother? They want somebody
Train you
younger.
and put the money into it, and yeah.
Yeah. So for the employer, sometimes it's a practical decision, but still doesn't help our seniors, right?
But isn't that illegal, you guys?
Yeah. Like I say, nobody ever said it implicitly. They probably, gave it some other excuse, but that's kind of what he started to feel. Yeah. Because he was very experienced in the field. So transition services, I know that's a big part of what Rolling Start does. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Rolling Start is amazing. Now, I'm very new to the board, as far from looking at it from that aspect, but I know that they're amazing when it comes to helping, like people getting out of the hospital, things like that, the ADA, mobile, all of that. I mean, and if I'm not mistaken, there's only one place like this in San Bernardino County. Am I correct?
Like Rolling Start?
Like Rolling Start.
Yeah. Yes. Mm.
That helps out with like ADA, like the ramps, the chairs, the home repair, like turning the tub into a shower or whatever, making it
rolling
convenient.
shower. Yeah.
The rolling shower.
Ramps.
So Rolling Start,
Yeah.
ramps.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, but you mean like transitioning from the hospispittal or transitioning?
Yeah.
In what aspect are you
Because
talking about?
ADRC gets involved with that as well, helping with a transition. So, we work with people, say, that are in a facility, a rehab facility, or a nursing home, and we try to get them into a home of their own or a room of their own at a home, and so they can live independently. We're all about independent choices for people with disabilities, right? And there's
Right.
no charge for any of it. Or if somebody is at home, and if they need something at home that would keep them there, if they're on the verge of having to move out because they can't get in and out of the home, they don't have a ramp, say, we can solve that barrier for them. Or it could be
Right.
something else. But yeah, either way, keep them home or get them home
And keep them safe while they're home.
while they're home. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's other services for that as well, right? Meals on Wheels or, just
Oh, yeah,
in-home
Meals on
services
Wheels.
to check on them once in a while.
In-home support,
Yeah.
Meals on Wheels. I know that transportation.
Yes.
I
That's
don't
the
know
other
if
big
you
one.
guys. Yeah, I think Rolling Star is trying to get a transportation grant
Yeah.
as we speak.
Mhm.
We have one that we've been helping Rolling Start clients,
Oh,
but
good.
unfortunately, and it's great, but we're running out of funding now.
Yeah.
It was supposed to end in June, so we're using a little bit of money we have left, but we're going to get another grant in the fall. So,
Okay.
and I really feel bad for a lot of our clients because not everybody does have transportation
Yeah.
on their insurance. So
Yeah,
they were
we run
really,
into
really,
that a lot.
yeah.
To get one of those smaller buses with a wheelchair lift would be, like a real blessing. But
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
put that out in the universe, see what happens.
Hello.
Yeah.
So
That's
ADRC, sorry, I'm drawing us kind of back to the community and disability and those kind of things. So when people so ADRC, because you said to us before we started recording, like, what does it actually stand for? Do you know kind of what brought it to be in existence?
Now that's a good question. Well, it stands for Aging and Disability Resource Connection. People over the age of 60 or 18 to 59, but you have to be disabled, dependent adult. So
Right.
that's what the acronyms stand for. How ADRC came to be is a very good question to ask. That's something, yeah, you got me on that one. I need to find that out because I just assumed it's been here for a while. I know that there's many, many, many places, like independent living centers throughout. I think there's like over 400 of them.
Nationwide,
you know,
there's 28 in
nationwide.
California. Yep.
Right. But that's a very good question, how they came to be. Yeah.
I mean, somebody obviously saw a need and went, hey, there's somebody needs connection because Doug and I have talked about this a lot, like in telling different stories. When you're in a crisis moment, your brain is not thinking about how do I get these resources or like where do they exist? It's literally thinking, I need to breathe, I need to live, I need to, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is popping in, right? And it's not like, let me go find a resource list. But that's kind of where you guys come in, is that if they can get to that 211 spot, that then connects them. They connect you to them, and you guys kind of take it from there in helping them find, things to move forward in their journey, I guess.
That's a darn good question, Addie, because remember the story I was telling you guys about Bob? His cousin lived in Wisconsin.
Right.
They had an ADRC in Wisconsin. So that's how she found out about us.
Right.
She didn't actually, now that I think about it, she didn't call 211. She called ADRC
Directly.
So because she called the one in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So that's how long ADRC's been here. I never, honestly, you kind of embarrassing because I should probably know that, but I never really thought about it. I just sort of like took for granted. It's been here for a minute, right?
That's all right.
Yeah.
You're making up for it with good work.
Thank you.
Well, and showing that like even you who's involved in it is deeply a cause for you. It shows you like how much it's not heard of. I've never heard of it. And I've been disabled my whole life, just that's part of the joy of the podcast is exposing people to other things. Doug does an amazing job of the resource page, but like half of the people we talk to, I personally have never heard of it until I read the call sheet and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. But I mean, not everybody can know everything, right?
Yeah.
It is very cool because I actually thought about you, Doug, and now I will think about you, Addie, when I get certain calls. No, because I had a call Monday, and it was from a 22-year-old lady, and she was so precious. She was used to living kind of like a good life. Something happened to her. Now she's in a wheelchair the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And she's trying to navigate, and she's got a 3-year-old baby, and it's just her and the baby. So she wanted to know about renting out a room to try to supplement her income. I told her about you. I didn't tell her about this podcast, but of course I told her about Rolling Star.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I was going to say she probably would be good for an interview because she's in a wheelchair the rest of her life.
Yeah.
She's having maybe it might be too soon. I don't know. I can ask her, but something she's got spinal something, where it was raining, she slipped, she fell.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
And there you go. Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about where, when you're in your, twilight years and maybe you couldn't or haven't prepared for that. But here's somebody that's just, you're at 22, you're just starting to think about those. You're lucky if
Plot
you're
twist.
thinking about that. Then, yeah, plot twist. And then, so it wasn't either she couldn't or hadn't planned on it. She wasn't even there yet at her age,
No.
and she's in that same circumstance. She, is unable to, well, too early to tell maybe, but, and I'm sure she's struggling with all that right now. But, there may be education and a career out there still for her. But yeah, her plate's full with the baby and all of that.
it is, but things came up like, adjusting to this wheelchair, being like this the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, and she's used to making, because she lives in a very nice area in Chino, and she wants to hold on to the home that she has, the apartment she has.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, okay, do you think it's too soon to interview someone like that, you guys?
Well, I would let them,
that's
you know,
just-
decide,
let
but
them
there's,
decide.
Resilience. I mean, we can have a conversation about resilience and how we don't live our own personal life. Like that is a conversation I would have
Right.
any day about like how do you live a full life as a disabled person. But that is life experience. Me just as an older double-aged to her person sitting here and saying, you got this. But sometimes that's all anybody needs. And that's why like calling you, Joyce, if you're the person that picks up and says, you got this, that might be the thing that springboards them into, hey, I don't have to leave this place, or hey, I don't have to, this isn't the worst thing that's ever happened to me and I don't want to be here. You're the cutoff at the pass at a very important time.
and there are organizations at this point where she's at. There's organizations that really I would strongly advise she connects with, you know, Triumph Foundation, or, you know, look into Casa Colina, or, you know, because this is the time where she really needs to join the community. Because the
She
physical,
does.
we talk about it all the time. The physical things, you get healed fairly quickly, you know, to
Yes.
where you can get back to life. But it's the mental part of it and overcoming, like the question she's asking herself that everybody does, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you have to resolve the fact that the you that you've known now for 22 years is gone. And there's going to be a new you that's going to rise from the ashes. And
Yes.
that's a transition. It doesn't happen overnight.
And a choice.
Yeah. And a choice.
So I think that
Yeah, absolutely.
this is off track. You're going to have to delete all this. But
You
I
make
mean,
me work.
yes, we're making you work. But I would be willing to talk to her as like, it's going to be okay. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But
That's
She
what I'm talking
needs
about.
that.
Get with the community.
Yeah, I
and the
think she
people in
needs
it.
that, Addie. And Doug, I think she needs that because, you know, I could tell in talking to her, there was times that she felt like kind of, I mean, I felt her, you know, she said, because she's used to making good money. You know, she's living in a nice side of town. She's used to living a certain way.
Yeah.
And she said something like, I never expected my life, you know, was going to be, you know,
Sure,
things that
nobody
as
does. Yeah.
as a crisis counselor, you listen to certain things and you think, oh my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to encourage her the best I could. But then I started thinking about, Doug, what you do.
Yeah.
You know, wow, maybe this, because you talk to people that are, you know.
And at the very least, put her together, and I'll chat and let her know what's available, especially specific to what her needs is. As a matter of fact, when we get done with this interview, I have a phone call with a young lady who has a child who is disabled. And, you know, she's just, you know, she's exhausted. She was just telling me on a text that her, you know, daughter doesn't sleep at night. So she's up at night and just, so, yeah. And I don't even know yet what the age of the doctor is, or the daughter is. So, you know, but I want to talk to her and let her know what's out there, where she can go, and, you know, at least get some support. You know.
I'd like to interview you two. Has anybody ever said that? We're still off the camera thing. You, because I'm looking at both of you.
Well, I
really.
make that executive producer decision
We're gonna-
later.
yeah,
We're going to keep Doug really busy because you're going to have to do a lot of deleting. No, I'm looking at you. What's your disability, Addie?
cerebral palsy.
Okay.
My container has cerebral palsy. My brain has nothing.
I've listened to you. You're very refreshing. You
Thank you.
are. And I think it takes a very special person to do what you guys do. You guys are amazing.
Thank you. No, we
Yeah.
appreciate that. But
bless you.
I'm excited to tell your story because obviously we've got to get people back to feeling like they can do it and that there are resources to help them do it. But sometimes those resources are so clinical that they cannot feel seen in the reach for the resources. So in sitting here with you, that's what I feel like is you don't feel clinical at all. You are the person meeting a person with a need and hoping to connect them, you know, via there.
I've been there. You know what I'm saying? So I meet a person where he or she is at. First of all, it's okay. I always tell my clients, you know what? Sometimes we go through something to get to something. You know what I'm saying? I am the most positive person for the most part. Sometimes there are a couple clients that will take you there, though. There are.
You're like, hold on, wait a minute. I got to breathe. I got to put my mute button on.
Doug knows one of them I'm talking about.
I know, I was just thinking.
I can't even say that.
Oh, God
I
bless
was
her.
like, my
God bless
friends
her.
say, "Ihole, Joyce."
Yeah, that's right.
But there's a couple of them that will, you know, but for the most part, you know, I meet them where they are. It's okay. It's okay to cry. You know, we're human.
Yeah.
You know, and I tell them, you know, get it out because if you fester your feelings, then you get sick inside.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll give them like 24-hour, this is where the 211, the database comes in. That's great. There's like resources, 24 hours that's available for seniors and dependent adults. So maybe your people that are listening can know this. And it's called the Friendship Line. I love giving that one out. It's not a suicide line. No. Nobody's, and I always tell my clients, nobody's going to show up at your door to take you on a 5150, because that's usually one of the first questions they ask me when I tell them about, emotional support lines and so forth. No, Joyce, I just need to get it out. And that's the friendship line. Everybody needs somebody to talk to.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
We do. Everybody needs somebody. And I like the fact that it's 24/7. So if it's 3:00 in the morning and you can't sleep and you don't want to wake up Fluffy or Buffy, your dog or cat, by talk, or they're probably tired of hearing it anyway.
That's right.
Call the friendship line. You don't even have to say your name. There's always somebody on the other end that you can vent to.
That's
period.
great. So also tell us a little bit about No Wrong Door. What is that concept?
A no wrong door is basically, it's no wrong door, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
You can get the help you need. You're not going to be judged. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at it like that. You're not going to be judged. It's whatever you need, whatever kind of help you need, it's available for you.
Yeah.
Period.
So-
It doesn't matter. I mean, even there's help for people that don't have income, but it's not as much help as we want it to be, but there is help for people. There's no wrong door. It's kind of like the only dumb question is the one you don't ask.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a barrier, you think, in your experience of answering these calls for so many years, that people are reluctant to call and ask for help? And they're finally just like, got to get some help somewhere?
Yeah, they'll use us. I get calls from people that, case in point, a gentleman, they're used to making six figures, you know what I'm saying? And then something happens and then their whole life is, and look, here they are calling a 211 or an ADRC.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they're like ambiguous as to whether or not to tell us everything, because,
and again,
what happened.
That's an example of, a former self being lost. You're mourning that loss of that six, figure man that you were before, and now you're asking for help.
Right.
So that's
humbling and all of that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you can still, when you talk to them, you can still see where they're used to being, at that place.
Yeah.
And then where they are now, it comes out sometimes in conversation. And then again, I say, you know what, we go through something. We all do.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It
I'd like to
really
meet
is.
the person that, has gone through an entire lifetime and not gone through anything,
Well, yeah, that's the person when you need to be like, okay, you made six figures. How did you put your pants on? and now you don't make six figures. How did you put your pants on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but sometimes people need that beat and that moment and that perspective to be like, wow, that is kind of an ass of me. Like, just because they're so wrapped up in being a thing, to being an identity, and that money has given them identity. So then they're scared. If I no longer have the money, what is my identity? And I think that that's why the shepherd of someone like you coming through this and saying, hey, it's okay to ask for help. We're all going to need help in some way. And if we don't ask for help and want to be an island, you kind of make that bed that you're going to lie in. But for Doug and I, the goal of this podcast is community and encouraging it. And even if it feels scary and horrible, it's out there. So just all you got to do is put your hand out.
And ask. That's it.
Yeah.
Ask. And that's the no wrong door, Doug. You're not going to be judged.
Yeah,
just ask. You never know where you're going to be in life.
That's right.
So that's the concept. I treat people the way I want to be treated.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah. I've been around people that are kind of arrogant and I don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had an ex-husband one time, and no, seriously.
One time. Yes.
Well, this one had money and this one got mad at me. He said to me, and I'll never forget it. And I thought I really liked all this, but when it comes down to it, I'm really not like that. Okay. Ostentatious. Have you heard that word before? Ostentatious.
Yeah.
My ex said to me, and this is 100 years ago, but I'll never forget it. Why are you talking to them? Because we had employees, right?
Oh.
He says, why are you talking to them? Don't you know you're on a different level than them? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I had several phones in here. I didn't take them all out. And I told him, I said, you know what? You take that Rolex watch. I told him, you take that Rolex watch and that Mercedes out there. I'm not going to tell you the rest. I told him, and then I said, you are,
We get
I
it.
said, you are, yeah, I said, I said, you take that away from you. I said, how can you say that? How can you tell me not to talk to my employees? How can you tell me, I would like change the dates where they can be off so they can go to their kids' graduation, on the calendar. He'd come in and like, why did you give them this day off? And like, well, their baby's graduating, that type of thing. And he would be infuriated that I would do something like that. And I would be infuriated. How can you not even think that that's a precious moment that, you got to take that time off.
Yeah.
So I don't,
Kind of a no-brainer, right?
yeah, I don't do very well with that particular class of person
Yeah.
at all.
So ADRC is a nonprofit, right?
It is a nonprofit.
So let me ask you a little bit about the future. Other initiatives within ADRC as far as, how to keep the funding going, or, are there initiatives about, some new areas of service that you want to provide?
You're asking so many good questions that I did not really expect.
That's all right. That's all right.
And you got me
we're not
thinking.
sure, if you know the answers to these, but we'll ask. And
You got me thinking. I just wish that there was a way, and I know this is a stretch, but where we had funding, right? Like a partial funding. You talk about initiatives, like where at the front, we can help people that call in on a different level. I've always wanted that.
Yeah.
Instead of going into, our pockets and doing things for that person that slipped through the cracks, that's on oxygen. I have a lady right now on oxygen in her car. Yeah, as we speak. I just wish there was a way that they would say at the front, who would I talk to about that? I need to find that out. Things like that to me are very important, but I don't think I'm supposed to just be answering the phone and giving out resources. Understand me? No, that's what I was told.
Right. Yeah.
Right. They're like, stop it, Joyce.
You're already
Stop
doing
it,
too
Teresa.
much, right?
Stop it, Teresa.
That's what I was told. You're just supposed to be answering the phone. Just give the number. So
You
that's
can't do
that's
that. I know it's
yeah.
not
That
in you.
ship has sailed.
No.
But I wish there was a way that I could, because I've written letters. I always just give me an address. I'll write a letter. Who do I talk to? Because there's just something not right.
Yeah.
I grew up in San Bernardino County, and it's just different than before.
Yeah.
I feel like since they took Norton Air Force Base away, Doug, you're probably familiar. You're too young to know about that, Addie. But since they took that away, I feel like, it's gone down.
Yeah. Well, that was a big part of our economy.
That was a big part, right?
Yeah. And March as well, but that's transitioned a little bit to a reserve base, but
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, you've done a great job today of telling us what the resources are and growing the awareness of it. That's all the resources in the world are great, but if you don't know about them, and that's not gonna help anybody. So that's kind of our mission here is to have those conversations with individuals and to get the word out on a lot of organizations just like yours. So we appreciate that. So as we kind of close out, if somebody's listening today and they're hearing Joyce and they're struggling and maybe they're caring for a loved one, or they're, kind of worried about a loved one that's out there on the street or whatever, what would you say to them? What would you tell them about, taking that first step?
There's always help. There's always somebody that cares. You just don't be afraid to ask. The person that you're talking to may have gone through the same thing you went through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So just never be afraid to pick up the phone and call, period. Do you want me to leave the number
Yeah,
on
that'd
here?
be helpful. I was going to say, if you want to give
Okay.
your personal lines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
If you want to talk to Joyce specifically, but whatever number you're comfortable with.
The number to ADRC is
Yes.
833-372-2372, or after 4:30 that number stops. They can contact me at 951-742-5401.
Excellent. And ADRC is up on our website, so you can find out more information there. So thank you. I know you're busy and probably got a lot of phone calls backed up. You're going to have to catch up. But thank you for joining us here on Walk and Roll Live.
Each week on Walk and Roll Live, we share honest and open stories of people living with a disability.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that, I was bouncing back and forth between Kaiser and Casa Colina. Obviously, well, I won't say obviously, but what had happened was I got spun around, and as I mentioned, I broke my back and severed my spinal cord. I didn't know that my legs weren't working, other than the fact that the car next to me that hit me was on fire. I knew that I had 21 gallons of gas in my tank.
Join us weekly for another powerful episode. Walk and Roll Live, wherever you get your podcasts. Life, limitless. Subscribe now.
From the ADRC Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories.
Thank you to Joyce for joining us. What'd you think of her story?
It's winding, and it doesn't tell as much of the story about the ADRC as I thought it would, but it was a lovely time with Joyce.
Yes.
So I do appreciate that. And I will say, in the open, I talked about giving that talk about caring for the caregiver. And I actually mentioned the friendship line that she mentions, because I had never heard of it. And we actually, even in my talk, I talked about it, and then we dropped the link to it in the chat and provided it as a resource on our follow-up information. So it shows you that you will gather the things needed. There's a reason things are said at a certain time, right?
Yeah,
because
and I think that's what kind of came out of that interview is you see, you learn what they do and learn that there's a great person who's going to help you navigate all of that too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you ever want an angel to answer the phone, I feel like that would be Joyce.
And that's it. I mean, I've talked to her while she's at work, and she'll put the phone down talking to me for a minute to go back and answer the phone. And I listen to her half of the conversation. And she's a cheerleader. She's, just trying to the whole time. She's very kind. She never gets irritated that I've heard. She's always just, wait and be patient. And then tomorrow we'll take a look at it again, see where we're at. It's like, wow.
I love that about her. But the other thing is, it's not just that, essence. It's also the, you can do this behind her. I felt like that it was like talking to another version of myself, because she's not going to let you snake out and be just, oh, woe is me, the world sucks.
Yeah.
She's going to be like, all right, we're going to get our crap together, and tomorrow we'll try again. I like her soldier soft.
Yeah.
We'll call it soldier soft.
Yeah. A life coach, right? Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. To maybe whine once in a while, but then we'll put that aside and get back to work on getting rid of all that stuff
to be done,
causing you the problems. Yes, exactly. All right. And then another good one that we recently had a chance to sit down with some parents and also a doctor that are dealing with the implant, the cochlear ear implant for hearing. And I just saw, I was telling you before we came on, I just saw a post, a collage of probably 5 to 6 little babies, just when they plugged it in and they heard their mom or dad's voice for the first time. Oh, and the looks on their faces when they realize, because they started where they kind of look irritated, little baby, and what are you're messing with my head? Knock it off. And then that moment comes where they recognize it's the best. So we'll talk with them next week. So make sure you're here. Any final thoughts?
I'm just excited to tell this story because it was very interesting also to sit with 3 people and hear everybody's perspective, right? And this is what I also love. We often talk about parents adapting to a child being born with a disability, right?
Yeah.
And those parents that were featured also had no, they weren't expecting a deaf child.
Nope.
It happened, but the resilience in which they suddenly they sound like amazing parents, but they also weren't afraid to step in advocacy when maybe that wasn't their lane originally, and they took a chance. A lot of what you look at with our stories, with yourself, being born when you were and your parents advocating for you, and my mom just, and dad deciding I was going to have a dorsal rhizotomy when nobody knew what that was going to be. We are the product of our parents taking a chance that they had to make a decision for us.
Yeah. So we'll hear all about that next week right here. Make sure you don't miss it. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Doug Vincent, along with Addie Rich, who I couldn't do it without, from the ADRC Professional Training Studio. This has been Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories, Life Limitless.
Walk and roll live.